Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. We are live on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for Tru Heel Heat 125. Boy, oh boy, we got a lot of news to unpack. We're going to be talking about Selena Vega returning to WWE, AEW in talks with a former WWE superstar, all of the recap and fallout from AEW Dynamite, WWE NXT, WWE Raw, and SmackDown last night, as well as preview and predictions for Impact Under Siege, as well as WrestleMania Backlash. I am here once again with my co-host, not the lovely and beautiful Miss Chrissy Love, but he is back with us from last week. He is the resident Tru Heel alcoholic himself. It's early though in the States here, so don't think he's gonna have alcohol today. He is Top Guy JJ.
No, not this morning, brother. It is kind of early for that. You know, this is what happens when you try to get vaccinated and cleaned. And yeah, so today, essentially a game all day. Because, you know, gotta go make that cheddar right afterwards.
Gotta make that cheddar. It's an early morning. We do it for him because he's a busy man. But another busy man is a gentleman that was on my other home yesterday, Wrestling Daily. He is a featured writer for Fightful Wrestling, then one of the stars, the co-host of the Distraction Podcast, the Distraction Choice Patreon. He is the head of the Eddie Kingston campaign and your official Chubby Chief, Joe Hulbert, is finally here on Tru Heel.
Well, yeah, I'm never ready for coming on shows that have real intros, and you caught me off guard again. That was grand. I'm really happy with that. You know, I actually clicked that up, but I will say though, I'm glad to know, I'm really relieved to find out that I'm not the reason we're doing it at this time, because I mentioned to the guys before we went live for, I said, this is early for me too, folks. 1 PM. I'm not podcasting at 1 PM. You know, I work on US time, but I'm happy to be here. This should be fun.
Absolutely. It's beneficial for you because you get it done. They get about your rest of your day. Me, I'm going to probably take a nap with my kids after this. But yes, it is a good morning for everyone in the United States, a good afternoon for everyone in the UK and all around the world. If this is the evening, good evening to you, or you're watching on demand. Of course, this is Tru Heel Heat weekly podcast. So this is all about you guys. We want to hear your thoughts, your comments in the live chat on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And this is not only just our weekly podcast, fellas. This is a monetization celebration because Tru Heel Heat has finally become monetized. So you guys in the comments, we're not only going to highlight a few of your comments, we're going to especially highlight anyone who feels the need to provide us, donate to us through our super chats. Any super chat of any monetization will matter. It could be $1 or more. We got our first super chat yesterday during our Dark Side of the Ring, the ultra violence of Nick Gage review. Boy, oh boy, what an episode that was. And we want to get a couple of more super chats during this live stream here. So if you're watching on YouTube, drop us a like, share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family. Of course, if you are new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content right here on Tru Heel Heat. If you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, drop us a like, drop us a heart emoji, an angry emoji, a laugh emoji. I am sure Joe is going to make you laugh a whole lot during this podcast. He is a man who is of great wit. And of course, Top Guy JJ is here, and me and him will probably argue, and that's going to make you laugh as well. So drop us one of those expressions. And of course, tag a friend if you want them to watch along with you. But like I said, there's a lot of news to unpack. First of all, I do want to start off this Tru Heel Heat with our condolences, our thoughts and prayers. Rest in peace, rest in power to New Jack, aka Jerome Young, as me and Chrissy love dubbed him when we reviewed his Dark Side of the Ring episode. Uncle Jerome is not with us anymore. Before we get into things, any memories? What is the most like your favorite New Jack memory before we get things going, Joe?
It's interesting, I always think of him as a promo. New Jack is a character, right? He's not a guy that you're going to kind of plot your way through his match catalog with star rating graphs. He's not that guy, right? But he's a guy you can certainly fire up some of those promos. My mind goes to Smoky Mountain, which is probably, I'd imagine that's uncommon, right? ECW's man, that was ECW's New Jack at his height, but Smoky Mountain is him weirdly trying to sort of crowbar his way into a traditional wrestling territory in the most New Jack way ever, obviously. And that's what mine goes to. But he was a genuinely great promo. He really was. Wow. And I saw some people sharing those on Twitter, which is always good. It's interesting. I actually watched the Dark Side episode just this week for New Jack because I Nick Gage one was coming up, and I just why not? It caught me off guard. It's just a bummer, man. But it's always a weird deal where a name like that comes up in this sort of news, and it's terrible news. But it's a strange thing when your whole timeline suddenly is in celebration of that personality, right? Way too soon for the guy. But it was interesting for me to just see man, he did a lot of positive in terms of just influencing people, and a lot of good stories from peers and stuff. It's a weird one. It's a bummer, I have to say.
100% agree with you there. Top Guy JJ, any fond favorite memories of New Jack?
I mean, what else is it? He's literally the originator of just the guy just coming out with everything in his fucking kitchen sink before a match starts. This is the same guy that comes out with cheese graters, staple guns, 37 broken kendo sticks that's broken already because he wants to use the pointy edges of them shits. He was literally the most unfiltered guy that you can possibly even think of in a wrestling environment. He was somebody that he would think outside of your box. There's things oh my god, I think I remember him doing this thing one time. I think it was probably to one of the Dudleys, where he was one of the originators of literally putting a trash can lid and putting it in between dude's balls and just smashed it with a crutch. I was like, what? What? How do you even think of this shit? and then just he literally carried that shit wherever he went, whether it was in a promo, whether it was just him. If he's going to some indie show, he's I'm gonna fucking hurt you. This ain't a game to me, yo. I'm coming to fucking hurt you. I got a reputation to uphold. I ain't coming out here to take it easy on you. I'm fucking you up. So just that mindset was he never let it go, and he just literally carried that until his last breath, and you got no choice but to respect that, man. He went out his way probably.
Yeah, I mean, a heart attack is probably the way that New Jack was gonna go. My fondest or favorite memory of New Jack is just the ending of ECW pay-per-view. All the baby faces are getting beat down, and then you hear Natural Born Killers hit, and then it runs until the end of the show for the last 10 to 15 minutes. That is the soundtrack of the ending of an ECW pay-per-view, with New Jack hitting everybody with everything in a grocery cart, and then finally ending it, playing the guitar, and then hitting Jack Victory over the head with the guitar. It always seemed to be Jack Victory to me. Jack Victory and New Jack was one of my underrated feuds of the ECW era. We know, God bless to, thoughts and prayers to his family. Always, good thoughts for New Jack. One, in my opinion, top 7, top 8 greatest ECW wrestlers. When I think ECW, I think New Jack. So
absolutely.
Our thoughts and prayers out to him. But yes, we got a bunch of news to get into, and this edition of Tru Heel Heat here is brought to you by our good friends over at Battle Club Pro. Battle Club Pro, May the Franchise Reign, coming up on May 29th. 2 shows in 1 day. You can get your tickets on brownpapertickets.com if you're in the New York, New Jersey area. Of course, we also got to shout out our friends over at Powered 4 TV. You can get 50% off your first month of Power 4 TV with the promo code SP3. I'm trying my DMD now.
Yeah, that shit was kind of all over the place though.
It's early, y'all. We got a couple of comments we could get to already. We got JMC in the comments saying, "Sup, y'all? What's going on?" Jason Michael Campbell. We also got Trent Hatchet saying, "Let's go Impact." Yes, he's ready for Impact Under Siege coming up tonight. We got to start things off with our Tru Heel roll call. This is where we shout out everyone who's supporting us on social media and the Tru Heels YouTube channel. Our top 3 conversation starters on our Tru Heels group page over on Facebook. Coming in at number 3, it's Heels and Faces Wrestling. Coming in at number 2 is Argino Bismo, and coming in at number 1 is the Negro Buck, Nick Jackson. He's got his spot back. Top guy JJ.
Yeah, he ain't letting that shit go. He ain't letting that. I was literally on Facebook, and I literally saw like 7 posts of this guy. Like he's just relentless. He's just relentless. He ain't letting that go.
He never wants to let it go. And we got a couple of Tru Heels with shout outs. Stewie Palmer, Jarrett G, Ken Mr. Gentleman, J Doom Wild, and Injection 2K, and a couple of comments we can highlight from our YouTube channel. Rambo77.619 says, "Good show, guys. Enjoyed this one. Booker T is a legend" on our A&E biography Booker T review. And Kayfabe Tactics making a return, of course, talking about New Jack. He says, "I know I never post anymore, but I just had to come by and say this. Huge RIP to New Jack. Rest in power, man." And he commented that on the Dark Side of the Ring Ultra Violence of Nick Gage review. What was your thoughts on the latest episode of Dark Side of the Ring, the Ultra Violence of Nick Gage? Joe, I know you've checked it out already.
Yeah, it was good. I must admit though, I think the 2-parters have kind of changed the way I view that show. Like now, the one episode it feels short almost. You know, it felt like it could have done some time to breathe, because with Nick Gage, there's a whole lot. It's a roller coaster. You got to kind of jam stuff in. But like I kind of knew where it was going to end up, because there was a lot of people that made their minds up immediately, and it's like Nick Gage is just a very likable guy. So people are going to get won over by him for all of his antics, all of his craziness. In the end, people are going to leave it saying they liked him. And then for a Dark Side of the Ring, it was about as positive as you're going to get, right? I mean, you know, there's some tragedy, don't be wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, in the Dark Side of the Ring universe, it was like a win. So I enjoyed it. It was very good.
Absolutely. I very much enjoyed it. I just think that Nick Gage is just a natural born charismatic storyteller, and he kind of showed that here. But I felt like Jon Moxley was hilarious talking about the bank robbery. That was like the highlight of the entire episode for me. This guy comes out in a mask every time he comes to the ring, and then the one time he robs a bank, he wears no mask. Just classic stuff. And speaking of Moxley, let's get into things, guys. We got to talk about AEW Dynamite, who came in with 936,000 viewers this week, down from the 1,000,000.09 that they did for AEW Blood and Guts. They did a 0.31 rating in the 18 to 49 key demo, but a lot of news coming out of this episode. We had Miro defeating Darby Allin in a great main event to win the AEW TNT Championship. You had the Young Bucks defeat SCU in a thrilling, bloody AEW World Tag Team Titles match, and now SCU must disband thanks to this loss. Speaking of Moxley, you had Moxley kick off the show with Wild Thing, a new intro showing his love to Onita in this tribute here, as he defeated Yuji Nagata to retain the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship after a hard-hitting match. You had Pac and Orange Cassidy went to a draw after a scary injury for Cassidy, where Pac concussed him with a super kick and then delivered a nasty. Liger bomb. AEW improvised the finish here that was originally supposed to be a time limit draw, 20 minutes, to set up a three-way at Double or Nothing, but Don Callis instead had to come out and distract the referee, and Omega nailed Pac with the AEW World Title for the double countout in this matchup. It's going to be Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW World Championship in their first ever three-way for the title at Double or Nothing. Hangman Page challenged Brian Cage to a rematch at Double or Nothing as well. The Young Bucks challenged Moxley and Eddie Kingston to a tag team title match at Double or Nothing. Chris Jericho returned already after last week's fall at Blood and Guts, and MJF challenged Inner Circle to Stadium Stampede 2. If the Inner Circle loses, they will disband. What was your thoughts on this week's Dynamite, and what stood out the most to you, Joe?
Well, it was chaotic, right? I mean, when I say that, it sounds critical because honestly, in this case, it is. It's a show that has three matches I love. Okay, I liked Nagata and Mox a lot. The tag title match I thought was great, and the main event was awesome. But there was a weird feel to that show, to me anyway. And a lot of people comment on this, like, though Dynamite every once in a while, I think maybe once a month, they're always doing a lot, but there's one episode a month where it is just insanity. Like there's an angle a minute. And sometimes those shows click, and they're the ones where we all get on Twitter after and say, we're rolling, amazing show. And other times like this one, I thought I was kind of left just sort of like, oh man, this felt like a show that needed some quality control. So my main takeaway, if I was trying to be positive, would be the first and last 5 minutes of the show are like the best bookend of Dynamite they've ever done. That whole atmosphere of Mox and Gata, and then closing with Miro and Darby, that's great. There was some stuff in the middle though, and unfortunately my mind keeps going back to, I just can't believe they're doing Stadium Stampede after War Games or Blood and Guts, whatever. That just feels like they've got that whole thing mixed around the wrong way, and Jericho being back, as you pointed out, I don't know, man. That was puzzling. And then also, obviously, the Cody promo, which, I don't know. I mean, you put those two things on that show, and it's like, I'm not so sure. It was a weird one. It was a mixed bag. Interesting show.
I think I put on Twitter following the show, this was one of the most polarizing episodes of Dynamite in quite some time. Top Guy JJ, what was your thoughts on Dynamite, and what stood out the most to you?
I think you guys was literally just, that show was all over the damn place. Yeah. Like I don't know when was the last time I watched the episode of Dynamite where literally they had 5 endings on the show. The show could have ended on the SCU breaking up. It could have ended up on that. God, I did not like that Pinnacle Inner Circle segment at all. No. It could have ended on that shit. It could have obviously ended with Miro and Darby. It like for weirdness, like you could have had the main event with Moxley doing the wild thing as the main event. It was so much. Like it was just, and then they find a way to give Jay Cargill like 32 seconds. It was just, I didn't really resonate much from it, but I enjoyed the tag match. The tag match was pretty cool. The tag match was good. I definitely liked the tag match. The main event, Miro, it's kind of one of those deals. It's like, okay, why the hell did this take y'all so long to show us this version of Miro? Because I just, even when he was partnering with Kip Say, I didn't like that at all. I didn't like any of it. I had no interest in it whatsoever. Him beefing with best friends and all that. I had no interest because it's like, this guy doesn't belong with them. He belongs in this picture. He belongs in fighting major players. And he finally got the chance, and he fucking delivered. Like, that was a great showing with him and Darby Allin. But that Cody promo almost made me gag. Like it's like, I don't know, man. It's just too convoluted. It was just too all over the place. They literally try to put 2 Dynamites in one episode just to kind of get you going. And I could not stand that Pinnacle and Inner Circle segment. I couldn't stand it. Why? Why another match? Mm-hmm. Why another match? That should have been like, come on. You literally, like, Blood and Guts' dude obviously just got dropped off of the top of the cage. and then now Jericho comes back with the bionic arm 7 days later. It's just weird. It was just weird. Like, it was just too much to absorb. And maybe in a couple of weeks they'll probably take these clips and make video packages to all of these things, and then we'll probably like it a little bit more. But that was a lot to digest.
It certainly was, for sure, and I was a little remiss in not mentioning the Cody promo, so I'm thankful that you guys did. That was the most logicless promo I've ever heard. I've never, like, I was just wondering. I'm on Twitter, inboxing DM and Alex McCarthy, who's having the same thoughts as me. Like, how did we get here? Like, how did we go from Anthony Ogogo punching guys in the gut to putting the Union Jack flag over Cody to him being anti-American? I don't know how we got here. I don't know how Cody became the social justice warrior who's fighting for races to come together and biracial babies. And like, it's like, what is going on? And I know you had a lot of comments on Cody at this point. What's your whole viewpoint on the current direction of Cody right now, Joe?
I don't know how sustainable it is. You know, I as you mentioned this before, I said to Alex that my perception is that Cody views his current role as like attraction and ambassador for the brand. You know, like, he's on the show, but I think in his mind, well, if I stay out of the title pictures, no one will think that I'm hogging up any spotlight. Can confirm that is not true, but it is what he thinks. Okay, now he's over there and he's doing this stuff, and the more that he does programs with guys that he has to like sort of shape and lead and guide, like a QT Marshall's not telling Cody what to do, right? Anthony Ogogo's not he's hardly had a match. He's obviously not. And you end up in this position where Cody is like, he's like, you know, writing and directing his own programs, and I just don't think he's very good at it. Now, I'm not saying I dislike Cody. I think Cody's cool, but he needs to be with guys that it's 50-50. You know, like some of his best stuff in AEW, I think the TNT stuff was simple. He's going to have matches for this title. You know, when he starts trying to paint these masterpieces and there's 101 ups and downs and it's convoluted and there's so many different characters elsewhere, it's just, I don't think his instincts are as good as people give him credit for. I always hear this stuff about, the elite guys, you know, they don't know what they're doing, but Cody, he knows wrestling. It's like, I'm watching the show and I don't see this idea that he's some sort of like genius mind for the week to week. He's obviously got some genius in there because he's turned this brand into what it is. I think he's got a big part of that. And I'm happy for him to be a part of the show. But, man, some of the last 6 months, like the Shaq match was good, but the angles were not good at all. You know, like he's not, to me, showing a particularly good instinct in terms of what's on and what's off. And it's all over the place. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it just seems like the biggest mistake that AEW has done thus far with Cody is taking him out of the world title picture. Like, that seems like he's been trying to like grasp at straws ever since then. He had something good going with the TNT championship. He had the great feud with MJF, but it seems like since those things have kind of met their expiration date, he's been lost. And he's just trying different stuff, celebrity matches, putting over new guys, and it just hasn't hit anything. And of course, I gotta mention the Deadspin article, that said that Cody needs to fuck off more than anyone has ever fucked off in the history of fucking off. That is literally the headline that Deadspin posted on.
That's a little much. It's a little much.
That's extra. That's very extra. Damn.
What do you think about Cody's current direction, JJ?
He is basically in a position where he is kind of acting like he's bigger than he actually is. And when he had the match with Chris Jericho for the world title, I honestly thought that he should have won the match and dropped the title right back to Jericho, like just so he can stay alive. I never agreed with him losing that title match. I never agreed with it because he has no flexibility now with his storyline until they find a way to put him back into that mix. Even if he's put in storylines and he doesn't quite get there, he would actually still be involved in storylines in the picture. So now the fact that he can't even be a part of any of that stuff is basically TNT or nothing. And all of this, these stories literally don't correlate with anything that is going on with Dynamite, honestly. Like they it's just he's basically his own show. Like it's TNT, AEW Dynamite, and then there's Cody's Go Big Show. It's everything is an event with him. Everything has to be special. Like his comebacks have to be special. His promos are special. His fighting the younger guys has to be special. The American Dream, Cody Rhodes to fight Anthony Ogogo. Like what? Like what? It literally, it's just like, come on, dude. Like, I like Cody. I like Cody a lot, but just what is happening with him on a weekly to monthly basis is like they're literally just picking the weeds to see what we can make of him this week or this month. And a lot of it is falling flat because the stories that he's involved in goes nowhere.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be true, and this seems like a perfect time. I know we usually save the news till after we did the what we missed, but I gotta mention this. Apparently, there's been reports that there is trouble in the Elite. I'll read this off. Wade Keller of PW Torch noted on a recent podcast that he thinks that I want to emphasize, he thinks certain members of the Elite are no longer on speaking terms. He says, and I quote, "There's going to be a book written someday by some of these EVPs or someone else closely observing, and we're going to learn a lot about a lot of dysfunction." Keller said, "We're going to learn what a very short honeymoon period there was between certain key people in the company who aren't even talking to each other anymore." Keller is convinced that the situation is so volatile, it's only a matter of time before specific details are made public. He says, "I think we're going to find that out." He continued, "I know there are people in other wrestling companies saying the Bucks and Cody and Kenny, it's not going to be long at all before they want to have nothing to do with each other. The honeymoon period is going to be short." He was with Jason Powell of Pro Wrestling Net, who also talked about that certain free agents are looking at this situation and it may stop them from signing with AEW. Do you think that this sort of speculation from Wade Keller has any type of backing behind it, Joe?
I mean, I think it does. You know, Wade is not a scoopster anymore, right? Yeah. But he's also not a guy that's like, I feel like he has something there to say that. Now, whether it's to the level he's suggesting, I would probably say is unlikely. Wade, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but I'd say it's unlikely. You know, but I'll say this much. You know, the comment was just made, Rob. We all just spoke about it. Cody, look at the guys he's working with, and then imagine a scenario where he's frozen out from the Elite. It would be awful fitting if he was indeed frozen out from the Elite to say, okay, I'll go and feud with QT Marshall over here, who's my right-hand man. You know, I'll go and feud with Anthony Ogogo, who's a guy who we're training. It's not hard to believe, right? Like, we all just agree that the show feels like Cody's on an island. Perhaps that's the case. It was always a thing when this whole deal started. And look, AEW is the promotion that, frankly, without AEW, I don't know if I'm still covering this stuff. You know, it's the one thing to me that has some life and energy. So I appreciate it. But it's always been a thing that these guys have very different tastes. And it's obvious when you watch the show. Right? Cody's living in early 90s WCW. He's getting color. It's great. You know, I like that stuff, but it isn't the same as what the Bucks and Kenny are doing. We know that much.
Yeah.
I believe it totally, man. I really do. I mean, and the other thing is, at this point, this is not a small crew anymore. You know, you're looking at a huge roster with AEW. They could easily not be getting along, and it's just sort of, who knows, right? Everyone's in their own cliques anyway, not in a bad way. It's just everyone has their friend group. So I believe it, whether it's to the extreme that maybe that podcast quote suggested, maybe not. But I believe there's a thing there, almost certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I always believe in the term where there's smoke, there's a fire. And yeah, I think that there is probably some issues or dissension between the guys, but I also agree with you, Joe. I don't think it's as serious as Wade made it out to sound. How about you, Top Guy?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense to even come up with the assumption because you haven't seen them together on a program, or even because there's been moments where they would come out even to thank the fans together as a group, and they haven't done anything like that in a while. But maybe it's just literally them saying they're gonna just take their wrestling paths and not keep them joint together at the hip for the entire duration of however long we're going to be running this thing for, which is a good thing. I like that. I kind of like that, but it's just the thing with Cody's direction and the Elite's direction is that the Elite somehow managed to keep the Elite alive. Like the Elite storyline is them still a brotherhood together, and then Cody is just left out in the cold, but Cody's stories are just not hitting. So it's how do you swing him back into the fold, because he's now this super baby face. So there's no way you're going to be able to just do a quick flip and then just get him just to all of a sudden join, the likes, or even get into a program with the Elite, because he's super babyface Cody now. He's like the world savior. He's like Captain America of AEW. So it's kind of like, I don't think the terms are going to be bad. I don't think the terms are bad at all, honestly. I mean, there's probably something there, but I don't think it's much. I mean, I think that the relationships are still very, very solid, still very good. It's just that you can see Cody will be the first to depart from this. Cody will be the first one to separate from AEW and this conglomerate that they're trying to build. He will definitely be more of the guy behind the scenes and doing other projects and doing other things. When Brandy drops, when Brandy drops, Cody's not going to be around as much. He's going to want to get into other things. Cody's getting calls for other shows and other roles. Cody's going to take these opportunities. He's going to take them. And just the Elite, they're wrestling. Cody is trying to do everything else.
And it's we already see that with like the Go Big Show and other things he's doing. So definitely right where you guys are coming from. Couple of comments we got here. We got Descendant Demon send SP3 for an appearance on a distraction fantasy draft. I'm totally down for that.
That would be fun. I mean, we're struggling to come up with concepts for fantasy drafts, but when we get the next one, I will try to do that. We should do one, yeah, definitely. If nothing else, we'll do one on the Twitch, which is like, how the Twitch is. SP3, you've been on that thing. That's quite an experience. We could draft anything. I'm for it. That sounds good.
We can do, the Distraction Wrestling Federation versus the Tru Heel Heat Wrestling Federation. I think that would be cool.
That could be really cool. Yeah, Jeremy and I teaming up, though, sounds like a conflict. I don't know if we would do well with that. But
that's the same thing with me and Top Guy. Don't worry.
Oh, God. Yo, we would probably argue more than you guys would answer questions.
Okay. Maybe we should do that, and that should be good.
Oh, actually. Yeah. Just us bickering. That should be I'll blame this bastard for everything that we don't get correct.
Absolutely. We got WrestleScope saying SP3 is everywhere. I feel like I've been everywhere, WrestleScopes. I do agree there. And he says that Cody has turned into Triple H. Oh,
I think honestly, I don't like the take of Cody turning into Triple H. I don't like the take, honestly, because Cody is trying a little. It's just like Cody's trying too hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be likable, like he's trying too hard. Like Triple H just, he was just naturally like put into this position with Stephanie, and then he took over the NXT brand, and then people started to really like him. I don't know if that dialogue is about his booking and matches, but I don't really get the take that well, because there are two different parallels with these two guys. Like maybe because Cody's a face of a company and he's an executive, that probably has the only thing in common, but they don't really have as much in common as you would think. I mean, it's not as simple as just, he's turned into him. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of an extreme take, but I can also see where people are coming from when they make that comparison.
It depends what we're talking about with Triple H, right? It's because my mind, when someone says Triple H negatively, my mind goes to like mid 2000s playing Ric Flair on television, Triple H, you know, like resurrecting Big Gold, shaving sideburns, Triple H, very sad stuff, very dark time.
God.
Cody, I have not seen anything. I have not seen anything as lowly as that from Cody. But if they mean in terms of like being the face of the brand, I guess that would be a reference to the NXT stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Triple H, there's a lot more years to kind of like, what version of Triple H we're discussing, you know? I mean, I don't like any of them. What one are we talking about in relation to Cody, you know?
I love it. I this is why me and Joe are like kindred spirits. I don't like any iteration of Triple H myself, so I'm right there with you.
Oh shit, you about to get our brother Jason Michael started on here. You about to get him going in the comment section over there. Don't mess with his man right. Triple H.
You're probably right. And speaking of Triple H, let's move on to what else we missed, which was WWE NXT, which was also down in the ratings this week to 697,000 viewers. Like, that is Wednesday type numbers on a Tuesday night for NXT. On NXT, though, it was probably, in my opinion, the best show that they've had on Tuesday night, as you had Kushida defeat Santos Escobar in a brilliant 2 out of 3 falls match to retain the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. Raquel Gonzalez beat Mercedes Martinez to successfully defend the NXT Women's Championship. Bobby Fish returned following Kyle O'Reilly's win over Oni Lorcan to make the save from a Lorgan Dunn beatdown. Isaiah Scott's new stable Hit Row impressed with a fantastic promo introducing the group on this show. Karrion Kross defeated Austin Theory and was then challenged by Finn Balor for 2 weeks' time for the NXT Championship. And then William Regal set up Johnny Gargano versus Bronson Reed for the NXT North American Championship in a steel cage for next week. How do you feel about NXT on Tuesday? Do you see a new direction for them? And what stood out for you this week on the show, Joe?
Well, I think there's definitely something. The common take is, and I don't think it's wrong, but the common take is they've kind of slowed down a little bit, right? And we have this thing now where it's like next week's main event is this, whereas before it's Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. What's on tonight's show? You know, it's different. But I still, while I think the show is good, and I think the in-ring has always been good, I still have concerns about like what is, you know, I mentioned this on Distraction this week, and the chat was kind of split, and maybe I'm wrong, but what is NXT's like direction, big match? Like, where are we? What's our end game here? Because I think the world of a lot of these guys, but they've been there for a long time now. And I feel like I've seen them all wrestle and all from. Now, Cross is obviously newer. It's going to take a little bit for me to get excited about carrying Cross wrestling anyone. I'm going to be honest with you, it's just not my guy. But, like, where are we? You know, what's the end game? And for me, that's a problem because so last week we had that, you know, spectacular women's tag match, right? This week we have a 2 out of 3 falls Matt Classic. Next week we got a cage match. And then the week after that we got Cross and Balor. Now, look, that's fine if you've got, you know, like an AEW has 100 guys. They've got all these matches they haven't touched. You can't just keep doing this stuff without, like, having some kind of, I don't know if they do or don't. I'm just saying they're going to need something at the end of the rainbow here because otherwise, man, it feels like they're still burning through stuff just a little bit slower than usual. Now, with that being said, in a vacuum, I thought it was a good show. I mean, it's been good since they went to Tuesday. So I'm glad it's steadying the ship a little bit. I worry about the long term, I guess. I guess that's where I'm at.
I totally agree with you because that was my first thought when they announced Balor versus Cross for 2 weeks' time. I'm like, but you just said you got a takeover in 5 weeks. Why are we going through the Bronson Reed rematch and Kushida versus Escobar? I would have loved for that to be on a takeover. It felt like a takeover match, but like it was great on this show, but I feel like it would have resonated more on the takeover card. And then you got Balor and Cross where I feel like that's not going to get a clean finish. I feel like that's going to lead to what we're going to have for the NXT Championship at In Your House on June 13th. JJ, what stood out the most for you this week on NXT, and how do you feel about the show on Tuesdays?
I think I'm stuck in the mud, man. I'm stuck in the mud on NXT and on a whole right now. Like I don't know what I don't know what to look for at this point when I'm watching the show. Like, I really don't. Like, I think you guys just hit it right on the head. I saw a Balor and Cross. I saw a Balor and Cross as Stand and Deliver. Now what? It's now what? Because maybe I don't know what's going on with Adam Cole. Potentially you get Cole and Cross, but it's after that. It's you want to run this cool Kyle and Cross thing. Like, I'm not really like psyched about any of these clashes. Maybe it's the Karrion Cross element that's not doing it for me all the way, because when it was Cole and O'Reilly, then you had Pete Dunne and Finn Balor, you had these guys that was mixing it up. I was looking forward to these matches a lot more, but now with this Cross element, it just feels 1000% predictable. So it just doesn't feel like I'm anticipating something that I'm probably not, that I haven't thought of already. So I don't know what this title reign is going to direct for. Like, his promos aren't really that good. Like it's his entrance, and then whatever comes out of his mouth is basically irrelevant. So I don't know what I'm looking for with NXT. Like, my favorite thing on NXT right now, I'll say my favorite thing on NXT right now is Kushida killing it with this Cruiserweight title. Yes. Like Kushida right now is probably my favorite thing on NXT right now, because Kushida is probably being used the best that he's been used in the past 3 years. So I'm loving the direction of Kushida. And honestly, I'm hard pressed to find something else that I'm really looking forward to seeing when I'm watching NXT on Tuesdays. Like, I love Raquel Gonzalez, but it's kind of like, okay, it's when they're not even teasing the Dakota Kai thing anytime soon. It's just feeling like that's lost in the shuffle. I had no interest whatsoever. Thank God they took the titles off of Ember and Shotzi. Thank God. Like, I don't know. Intrigue me with something further, but right now they're just not doing it for me.
I think what Joe said is like the best thing. Like, there's no big match that they're building to right now. And even with Raquel, like, they were teasing it during the Dakota versus Mercedes match a couple of weeks ago, that the main focus is the long game with Dakota versus Raquel. But we need like the seed sowed on the way there a little bit more to kind of build that anticipation. But as far as the NXT championship, I am a Karrion Cross fan, but yeah, there is no big match that I see in the forthcoming. Like, the big match for the NXT championship is honestly the match we saw last Stand and Deliver, and that's for O'Reilly and Cole to go at it for the title. That seems like that's the end game more than anything with Cross. But we got a question in the live chat for Joe. They want to hear it. They want to. How does Joseph feel about Triple H?
See, that's a plant for a personal friend, and he should be ashamed of himself. He's in this chat. He's poking fun. Look, he's fine. 2000, he was good, and the rest of it, you can do what you want to do with it. I appreciated when he decided to play Ric Flair on television, though. I did think that was very funny. He started dressing up in suits all of a sudden. There was also some Harley race in there, so he kind of mixed it up. But, man, it's bold to be a top guy in professional wrestling and just decide you're going to play Ric Flair. Nick Aldis is trying his best with it. It's difficult, So, good luck to him. He's fine. He has a sledgehammer. God bless him.
He's fine. He's got a sledgehammer. That's the best compliment Joe could get.
I can't do any more than that, guys. I'm sorry.
Descended Demon says, was convinced Cody has been setting up small things to turn heel. Thought it was genius. Might have been wrong. Yes. It seemed like he was going toward the heel when he was TNT champion, and then just forgot about it.
Now he's Captain America.
Yes, sad state. But what else did we miss? We missed WWE Raw. Don't worry, we won't focus too much on this show. But yes, Braun Strowman interfered in the Drew McIntyre Bobby Lashley main event, laying out both men ahead of WrestleMania Backlash. We also had Rhea Ripley defeat Asuka for some reason ahead of the Raw Women's title triple threat on Sunday. Alexa, and in my favorite sentence that I've ever said about a Monday Night Raw episode, Alexa Bliss possessed the legs of Shayna Baszler, giving her a cramp, leading to Asuka, Mandy Rose, and Dana Brooke defeating Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Charlotte Flair in the opener of Monday Night Raw this week. Joe, you've had a lot of comments on The Fiend and Alexa Bliss over recent months. What was your thoughts on Alexa possessing the legs of Shayna Baszler?
That's one way of putting it. I had a lot of comments on it. Listen, mate, I think it's, frankly, I'll be honest with you. I think it's one of the most insane wastes of resources I've ever seen in the history of professional wrestling. I cannot believe that for 6 months they tied up Alexa and Randy in a thing that eventually killed off the Fiend to create a new Fiend with someone that didn't need to be a Fiend. Okay? Now, that may have been hard to follow, folks. I promise it was accurate. It's a real thing. Look, Alexa has her faults, but she was in a role and one of the few women I had that was like established, right?
Yeah.
You've achieved nothing because all you've done is given her a new character that she's less suited to than the one she played before. Bray's now gone. We don't, and there was this report, and we don't need to get into that here, but like Bray's just off television. That's the reality with Bray. Randy, frankly, has escaped. God bless him, he's out. But now we have this situation where, after trying my best to cope with Bray as like a title scene guy on the male front, we now have to do the same with Alexa. And the problem is, the matches with Alexa are almost impossible to envision because Alexa, she's 5 foot tall, she's tiny. So how are you going to put her in there with Charlotte or Rhea as a supernatural character? It's like, you guys are going to have to carry me on Raw and SmackDown because I don't watch these shows like that. I just can't. My brain can't deal with it. But I'll say this much. This particular title scene, the Raw Women's title scene, has been like unfathomably bad for about 6 months now. It's been the worst thing they do by far. And their solution being female Fiend is a level of insanity that I was never prepared for. I don't know what's next, guys. I just tell you, I think it's some of the worst stuff they've done in years. I really do. It's just not for me.
I think it was 2 years ago. I was on this show. Top Guy JJ can attest to this. And I said, when Ronda Rousey left after WrestleMania 35, that it was all downhill from here. That it was all downhill from here. We had the year-long run of Becky Lynch, which was fun. It was fun in comparison to what we've had since she's left. But yeah, the mistreatment of Asuka leading into all the shenanigans with Alexa, Charlotte Flair, the opportunity, Rhea Ripley's lackluster run since WrestleMania. It's not been good for the Raw Women's division at all. But we should move on to last night.
Please. Thank you.
To last night on SmackDown. Really fun show on the go home to WrestleMania Backlash. Actually, last week we should mention Jimmy Uso returned to the show. This week he came out with what will be WWE Shop's top seller, Nobody's Bitch t-shirt. After being defiant to Roman Reigns last week, Cesaro beat Jimmy by disqualification thanks to interference from Reigns and Jey Uso. Cesaro ended the night by laying out Jey with 2 neutralizers as Roman Reigns looked on. And then in a great moment on the show, we had Tamina and Natalya defeat Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler to win the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. Great moment that kind of goes in the face of what we've heard, recent reports of ageism for the women's division, with women like Mickie James being sent out to pasture because they felt like she was like too old and needed to retire. But we have 43-year-old Tamina and 38-year-old Natalya winning the tag team titles here. That was very emotional in the post-match segment. So great stuff here. What was your thoughts on Tamina and Natalya winning the gold here, Top Guy JJ?
Yeah. Lucky I actually took a few minutes to watch SmackDown this week. I definitely didn't watch Raw, so I wasn't hip to none of the shit y'all was talking about on Raw. You know what? Not for nothing. Like, I don't want to crap on like a lot of how I've been on a shit list with WWE.
Yes.
This was actually kind of cool. It was kind of cool. Like, it's literally like Natalya is like the proud mom that is watching the lifetime achievements of these women get their thing. Like, there's not a segment that goes by now that Natalya is not crying about something. Like, Natalya is so super hyper emotional these days. Like, it's nice to see, though. She's probably making these women feel really good in these moments. So, kudos to them for that. I'm glad that this happened for Tamina. I mean, she's never really been taken seriously for her entire career. So the fact that they actually gave her this achievement, this is obviously going to be the only title she ever wins. But the fact that she got the chance to win a title, let's see what she does with it. Like, let's just see. Like, she looked naturally happy. She looked like she like it was raw emotion that came out. Like, it finally happened for her. Like, I'm happy for her. Just hopefully this just doesn't turn into crappy ass television.
One would hope, but it can't be much worse than what we've seen from the women's tag team division.
There is no division, so at least we got another 2 women that just got put together as a team. Like, Jesus Christ, the Riot Squad is crying right now in anguish.
Yes, how did Tamina and Natalya win the tag team titles before the Riot Squad? Is beyond
an actual tag team.
It's beyond me, but I am very happy for this moment here. Joe, what was your thoughts on Tamina and Natalya winning the gold?
Yeah, so I don't want to be mean, so I'm just gonna, I'll say this. I think some things, when you have something that is effectively, wrestling's like a team sport, right? It's a squad of characters, and I think this is more for the people in the back than it is for us, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like the women that are in that locker room with them two will cherish this more than any fan, and that is a little bit mean, but I don't mean it to be a diss. Like, I'm saying it's good. Like, they're like kind of leaders internally, and they do their job, and they're professionals. And let's be honest, it's the women's tag titles. It's not hurting the show, is it? It says, you just said, it can't get any worse. Good, let them do it. Good for them. Good pros. Good luck to them.
Absolutely, I'm happy for them. And Natalya was the person who fought to get the tag team turmoil and women's tag team title match on the WrestleMania card, because she was basically told WWE, you only got 4 women on WrestleMania. You need to put more women on the card. So Natalya being the leader of the locker room, this was a great moment for her. But yes, that was all for what we missed this week. So that brings us to our top news story, which has to do with people signing in different places or potentially returning to different places, as Selena Vega has been reported to return to WWE, as well as her former cohort Andrade is in talks with AEW. After her release from WWE, thanks to her OnlyFans and Twitch accounts, Fightful Select reports that Selena Vega was at the WWE Performance Center this week, and was being filmed for an unknown reason. According to the report, the working plan is for Vega to return to WWE. There have been other reports coming out of this rumor, and to have Selena return to the main roster, with some speculating that she may return to SmackDown with her husband Aleister Black. Vega is, of course, the former manager of the former NXT champion Andrade, who was recently released from WWE as well. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that there have been discussions between Andrade and All Elite Wrestling. However, at this time, it is unknown where those talks stand. This follows Andrade being announced for the Federación Wrestling promotion in Mexico, as well as challenging Kenny Omega for the AAA Mega Championship at Triple Mania 29, which will take place in September this year. So what are your thoughts on the future of Selena Vega and Andrade, Top Guy JJ?
I mean, I honestly will say it's rather disappointing that Thea Trinidad would end up going back to that shithole. What's gonna happen when she goes back? Like, she's just gonna get lost in the shuffle yet again. Like, she's gonna go and she's gonna make a great comeback and a great return, and it's gonna probably be without fans again. And how long is it gonna last? You're probably gonna get like a match at the WrestleMania Money in the Bank, and then your story is gonna be back to shit. What's gonna happen? Like, oh god, like, money talks, man. Money really talks, show, because there's no good future in Zelina Vega being in WWE. Like, I had AEW written all over it for Zelina, and it just would have made the most sense because that would have just put the women's division, which is already growing in AEW, to more substantial levels. But she's gonna go back and have matches with Liv Morgan one-on-one, and then this is what's gonna happen with, like, she's gonna get lost. And Andrade, yes, this needs to happen. This needs to happen for Andrade. Like, Andrade deserves main event spotlight attraction, so he deserves this. So I hope that they finalize this, pull the trigger. But after they sign Andrade, if they sign Andrade and after they do this, they need to chill on the free agents for a while. Like, they need to chill. They need to chill because they're not going to have room for anybody else. Like, AEW's roster is fucking massive. Mm-hmm. So they need to pump the brakes a little bit, because you're already seeing Christian Cage already being lost in the shuffle. Like, so it's already happening. So, like, don't WWE yourselves.
It is good point. Good point, definitely, when it comes to Andrade and AEW. Whose future are you more confident in, Joe? Selena Vega in WWE or Andrade in AEW? Considering that AEW has so much talent, right, and Andrade coming in, and Selena Vega is coming in at a time where the women's division isn't at its best, and maybe they will do something.
That's being so nice.
Yes.
That's not at its best.
It's not at its best. It's not at its best.
So look, I think this should obviously be a home run for Andrade, and I'm obviously picking him. I will say though, like, I don't know who's advising Andrade or like who's around him. There's a lot of things we could have done differently here. You know, like, when was he officially released? Are we looking at 2 months now? A little bit more?
This was Fastlane. It was the night of Fastlane in March.
Look, I'm all for dotting the I's and crossing the T's, man, but I feel like they could have made a big splash. You know, I really, if I was, this is just me, okay? If I was managing Andrade, my take would not have been, let's wait a few months and announce a match with Alberto Del Rio. You know, that was not my play. That was not where I'd have gone. Now, if he goes to AEW, which is the point of this, it's like, it's hard to get around the point that JJ made about they got a lot of guys. And not just that, they got a lot of guys that got to fit in that are like long-term future players. You know, like Darby's just dropped the TNT title.
Yeah.
You're going to want to get him up now, right? MJF is going to be world champion within the next year, I'd imagine. It's really difficult. I think Andrade is the kind of talent that you make an exception for, because he's like, who has a higher ceiling than Andrade when he's on? I mean, he's incredible, right? He's only 31. He's a spectacular professional wrestler, but it's a real thing. I mean, I feel like we can map out the world title scene in AEW sitting here now, and it's like, okay, so then where do we flip? Where do we suit, Andrade in? And it's easy to just say TNT title. Dude, they've got 25 guys that would like to be TNT champ.
Right.
You know, it's hard. They're just loaded. And then, you mentioned about free agents. I completely agree, but it's like, where does a guy like Samoa Joe fit in? You know, like, we all know where Joe's at physically, but at the same time, if he says, I'd like to come in, what are you going to say to Samoa Joe? I'm cool. Like, it's difficult, man. They got too many. It's hard.
This is like a crazy time because you got Andrade as a free agent, Samoa Joe as a free agent, Danny O'Brien as a free agent. So it's very difficult where you see these guys slotting in. Of course, a lot of people see Danny O'Brien returning back to WWE. I don't see that for Samoa Joe. I kind of see Samoa Joe, the best spot for him is back in Impact Wrestling. Like,
go back to Impact
has some momentum. They have Kenny Omega over there. You can still get your dream match with Omega there. So there is a bunch of guys who are kind of in the mix that AEW has to be selective with which one they bring in right now.
Right, yeah.
But going back to Selena, Top Guy, which brand do you see her winding up on in WWE?
Oh man, honestly, the best. I would love to see her if obviously it's coming back. I think going to SmackDown would be the best option for her, because it seems like they actually have a little bit of respect for the women on SmackDown, like a little bit, like a smidge. So at least she would fit right into, and obviously you would shoot her right in with Bianca. You would shoot her right in with Bianca, and their promos would be top notch. Like they would go at it, like when it comes to the mic work, because Selena could talk. Mm-hmm. Zelina could talk, and honestly, going to Raw, like you got the heel champion already. Zelina ain't coming back as no face. Zelina doesn't know how to be a face. She's too much of a, I don't want to use the words, but
sassy Queens girl. She's a sassy Queens girl.
She's from Queens, so she's got that New York grit to her. So she's always feeling like they out to get her. So
they were.
Yeah, SmackDown. Shit. Look at her. I mean, SmackDown, I think, would be the best fit for her, and just get put into that spotlight on Fox 5, because SmackDown is astronomically miles ahead, better than Raw in any way, shape, form, thought. Raw is the worst thing I have seen probably ever. Like I couldn't. Even if I get over this strike that I'm this like little baby strike, because I kind of feel like I'm starting to watch it a little bit more. I still can't do it. I still can't do it for Raw. Raw is that bad. That bad.
I think I got the best question I can ask to either one of you. I'll go to Joe first. What would you take, Raw in 2021 or Nitro in 2000?
Oh, I'm doing Nitro, because look, Nitro is worse in the sense that it's insane, but that's why it's better, right? Because it's chaos. There's stuff going on. I can't do an hour of Drew, and the craziest part is the last Raw I watched in full was the one when Lashley won the title, and I love Lashley, and I did this whole thing again. And people on Twitter are going, "Oh, they've got you now." Though I've not watched since. I can't do it. It's not the guys or the girls. It's just that presentation, that creative. It's so stale, and especially in the Thunderdome where it's so sterile and there's no sort of there's no sense that anything can happen, right? Like it's purely just what they want you to get. We're pumping some "This Is Awesome" chants. Yeah, I'll take 2000 Nitro just for the chaos, man. Every time.
Yeah, absolutely. 2000 Nitro, one, because it's chaotic, and secondly, because it's an hour less.
Yes.
I like to deal. That third hour of Raw is like the most torturous thing ever. Like, dude, I don't care about Raw at all. And the only thing, once they did this arcade bro shit.
Hey, I like the arcade bro. That's the best
thing. Meaning is that it's fun.
Yeah.
But there is no effort on Raw anymore. There is no effort into this show anymore. It's just guys coming out to do their jobs and to make the segments work as best as they can, and then it's over. There is no effort on Raw anymore. And I if y'all not gonna put no effort into it, I'm not gonna sit here and glue myself for 3 fucking hours watching this shit. Props to the 1.8 million people that watch the shit, but fuck out of here. I'm not gonna be one. No, I got more shit to do. I'd rather fucking go online and smash heads in Avengers and play some video. You do some other shit. Watch a movie. Do other shit, man. Clock in some extra hours at work. The fuck.
You'd rather work than watch Raw. That says it all. Oh, we got to go through the rest of the news. Speaking of people signing in different places, the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that WWE has reportedly signed Bea Priestley for their NXT UK brand. Congratulations to her. Of course, she was previously with AEW last year before she was released due to not being able to travel to the States. She was also with New Japan Pro Wrestling, a part of the United Empire, with her boyfriend Will Ospreay, who took her out with the Os Cutter a couple of months ago for her final appearance. And of course, you guys over at Fightful, always with the news, Joe. According to Fightful Select, despite rumors of Wyatt dealing with personal issues by an idiot source, in my opinion, talent within WWE have said they are not aware of such a situation. Multiple talent on the roster reportedly stated that Bray Wyatt has been backstage a handful of times and seemed fine and not injured, though he hasn't been at Raw tapings the past few weeks. Fightful notes that staff and talent who have worked closely with Wyatt believe that he wants to be on TV, but they have not heard of a specific reason for his absence. My question for you, Joe, is there any possible way they can rehab the Fiend Bray Wyatt character?
See, I'm probably not the person to ask, because I'm at like the height of the Fiend, I'm still like, oh, I'm cool. You know, like it's just not my thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's taste, right? You know, good for people to enjoy it. But I'll tell you what I think's going to happen. And this is, folks, seatbelts on, okay? Because this is going to be a journey. I believe that he will reclaim his powers in a cinematic match with the Fiendess, Alexa Bliss. And I am certain, I am saying this much now, when this happens, there will be people that tell you it's good. And it will not be good. Let me tell you, it will not be good, but there will be people tell you it will be, and then like he'll be back to square one, which is, oh shit, how do we book this character? The one thing I would say is though, is like that whole story. I'm not a Raw watcher or any of that stuff, but I know this much. The night after WrestleMania, Bray cut a promo where he said it's like a new start.
Yes.
That's not what you do with a guy who you know is going home after that. This is just a simple case of a guy's legs being cut from under him. I'm not a Bray fan. I don't really care much, but we have to be real about the situation. They've taken his character and given it to someone that didn't need his character. That's fucked up. So I hope he's getting his powers back or whatever, just for his own sake. Because if he isn't getting that, man, where does Bray go? Like he's completely lost that point. It's already bad enough. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the Fiend Bray Wyatt character at all on WWE television. New report claims that WWE is looking to start touring with fans again in July. It is important to say that this is yet to be confirmed by other sources, but Matt Man Pro Wrestling Podcast's own Andrew Zarian said on their podcast that the company looks set to start touring on July 16th for the main roster show. The show has broken news in the past, including NXT being moved to Tuesdays. Zarian said that SmackDown would be the first one to be live in front of fans, that the information he received said fans back July 16th to 19th. What do you think about the fans returning to WWE for SmackDown and Raw, Top Guy JJ? And what would you like to see remain from the pandemic era for WWE when fans are back in attendance?
From the pandemic era, absolutely nothing. like throw the whole thing away. Like nothing. Like throw the like if fans are back in attendance, Thunderdome, you're cool, but you can go. All of that shit like the Thunderdome is pretty cool. Like it looks nice, it's nice. It was a nice substitute, but there's no substitute for fans. There's no substitute for fans, so there's no element that needs to stay from that. And we're talking about storyline-wise, there's not a damn thing that I would want to see carry over from the pandemic era to fans returning. They need to give us a fresh motherfucking start if we're going to be coming to your shows, because if I'm going to come there and watch fucking Lily and Alexa Bliss, like I'm not fucking coming. Like I'm good. Like it's just no. No, I like my girl. Throw the whole thing away because they need to start anew. They need to start fresh. They need to give us some fresh shit when fans are back in the building. But even that's too much optimistical thinking when it comes to WWE, because they're probably gonna go on to WrestleMania, SummerSlam.
Oh man, if they call it WrestleMania SummerSlam, I'm going to be so upset. I feel like
that would be ridiculous. There's no way. They can't.
Might be on to something there. We got in the comments Richard Benson saying appreciating the Fiend Truth lads. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Benson, I appreciate you watching us and coming along in the
Fiend is dead, yo. The Fiend is dead. Shit is dead, yo. He lost to one RKO at WrestleMania. We
couldn't even get the funhouse. We couldn't even get the funhouse.
Dead, Joe.
That was so mean. Like, honestly, it takes some time for us to really. And look, I know none of us want to think about it. I get it, but when you really put into perspective what they did to him at Mania, it is one of the most brutal moves in wrestling booking history, right? Like the man got burnt alive, made a triumphant return, and got pinned by an RKO.
Single RKO.
Yes. And had his character stole in the meantime.
They did a whole regeneration process.
Like he got remutated back into his being, and he lost to a distraction.
Why did they do that, by the way?
Yo, listen, Bray Wyatt might be a part of the two worst WrestleMania matches in history.
Yes.
Like
Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt.
They're together as a duo. They're the cream of the crop of shit for WrestleMania. Like you can't get betterly worse than them two together.
Yeah.
And
it's bad. It's real bad.
Don't get no much worse than that. According to a new report from WrestleVotes, WWE is looking to add some new faces to the Raw roster, especially since the top of the card has been left weak with Randy Orton and AJ Styles in the tag division. According to the report, there is talks of Aleister Black being moved over.
Yo, come on, y'all. You really? Randy Orton and AJ Styles in the tag division.
Hey.
The worst thing is they put them there. They blaming me for this shit. Well, I didn't put them there. You did.
No, but this shit is mind-boggling, yo.
They want to put Aleister Black over from SmackDown, as well as Damian Priest getting a big opportunity, according to this report. Following his return on Raw, WWE has big plans for Jinder Mahal with creative ideas to have a feud with him and Drew McIntyre this summer.
The absolute best thing on Monday Night Raw to happen was the Maharaja coming back, yo. That was like literally, that was the only thing that made me even look at Raw for like 17 minutes.
17 minutes, and his match was only 3 minutes.
You know, because I saw the little pre-clip on Instagram, and then I saw him come out, and then obviously I was like, I'm gonna see what happens next, and I don't even remember what happened next. I just gave up on the rest of the night.
Oh, seems legit. Despite being used as enhancement talent as of late, Jeff Hardy has 2 more years on his WWE. With reports saying that WWE
at least he's getting paid.
He's cool. They're cooling him off for now, but he will be pushed again when they return to live events. It was also reported earlier this week by Wrestling Observer Radio that Velveteen Dream was backstage at Monday's episode of Raw, even though he was never scheduled to be on the show. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that Dream was also at the Performance Center recently after spending some time away. Do you think Velveteen Dream is the way to get fans back to watch Monday Night Raw, Joe?
Fuck Velveteen Dream, okay? Fuck Velveteen Dream. Listen, I try my best to be professional around here, but that's that name hasn't come out of my mouth in a long time, but fuck that dude.
That is the response I wanted. PW Insider, our final WWE note. PW Insider reports that according to people in management in WWE, they were not fans of the blood and guts match on last week's AEW Dynamite. According to one person, they spoke to saying the match just set the business back 30 years. Officials weren't happy, but wrestlers loved it because they would love to do something like that themselves. Top Guy JJ, what's your thoughts on blood and guts setting the industry back 30 years?
Well, damn, come on, yo. Why are we dragging it, yo? Like, why everything got to be dragged to such depth, yo? I mean, the ending sucked. Yes, the ending was trash. Like, the ending was straight trash. Like, I didn't get the.
I think they're talking about more of the blading and stuff. More of that, not the ending.
Well, 30 years? Set it back 30 years?
Yeah.
You know what's setting us back 30 years? Monday Night Raw is setting us back 30 years. Not a match or a one singular show. That program that's happening on Mondays is setting us back. Not a particular, because honestly, the Blood and Guts show was pretty damn good. It's just we got that, that narrative and all that blade jobbing and all that stuff. I mean, what the fuck it's called Blood and Guts. What the fuck did y'all expect? Everybody's gonna bleed. There's gonna be a ton of blood. You ain't gonna see no guts. You ain't gonna see nobody's intestines. So obviously, there was 10 men there. You probably had 10 blades. The fuck? Yeah, you're gonna see some. You're gonna see some. They're not. A couple of guys in there aren't used to blading, so they probably did a couple piss poor jobs. Fuck it. They all bled.
So, what do you think sets the industry back more? Blood and guts or Alexa Bliss possessing the legs of Shayna Baszler, Joe?
Yeah, the second one. Definitely the second one. But I'll be honest with you, like, it was amazing the way you did it. I don't know if you did this on purpose, SP3, but you like lined up all of these shitty WWE stories, and then you was like, but people in the office seem to think Blood and Guts really sucked. You know,
Yo, like what?
Like, they've got Velveteen Dream, and, you know, this is going on here and that there. But let me tell you, this Blood and Guts thing is a real catastrophe. It's just, you know, it's not even like a conversation worth having, is it? It's pro wrestling. If there's one thing the perception does cover with wrestling, it's, there's going to be a lot of blood and violence. It delivered on that front. Like, come on, it is what it is.
Absolutely. We got Marjo 32 in the live chat saying, "Hey guys, got here late on the West Coast. Love the show. Thank you so much for watching." And he also says, "Facts, F Dream."
Yo, I love that shit right there.
Richard Benson, aka Beno, says 30 years ago seems great to me compared to present day Raw.
Yo, I'm telling you, that it's the worst thing on all of television.
And JR1990 says, "Yes, the only thing worth watching on Raw was Jinder."
Now, as much as I love Jinder, everybody knows I love Jinder. That's fucking sad.
That is very sad. AEW news. We got AEW announced this week that they will be returning to the road starting in July. Wednesday, July 7th, they are going to be in Miami, Florida. Wednesday, July 14th in Cedar Park, Texas. And Wednesday, July 21st in Garland, Texas. This will make AEW the first major wrestling promotion back on the live event touring since the global pandemic. Do you think that this is AEW's secret weapon coming back to them, Joe?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's hard for me at this point, and maybe this is pessimistic of me, but I'll be honest. It's hard for me to like do the roadmap to, you know, world domination for AEW. Like, I kind of think their audience is what it is, and it's a good audience, right? It's going to keep them on TV, and that's what we need as fans. Thumbs up. No, I'm not a guy that's still doing the deal of like, when this happens, though, we're looking at 1.5, 1.6. I just don't. I think it is what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. TV's, you know, changing, obviously. Now, what I will say is, I think people underestimate like how much more loaded AEW has got in this era of like Daily's Place. You know, there are guys. You know, you mentioned I'm a Kingston fan. It's like, dude, Kingston's never been in front of an AEW arena crowd. He's just done Daily's Place for a year almost. Like, that's insane. He's main evented a pay-per-view. He's turned babyface. He's done all these things. He's been killed by a bad explosion, all this stuff. And he's never been in front of it. Like, when these guys go out there in front of an arena crowd, it's going to be electric. So I think, regardless of all the sort of impact stuff, it's like, as a fan, I'm just pumped, man, because I think it's going to be a party atmosphere. Like, it's going to be exciting just to have that noise and that energy back. So for me, as someone that enjoys their show, man, it was just like good news. I was excited to hear it. But as far as its impact, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm ready to see what the difference is gonna be. Brian Alvarez noted on this week on Wrestling Observer Live that Chris Jericho suffered a legit injury to his elbow that during the fall he took off the top of the cage in the Blood and Guts match, with the injury possibly being an elbow fracture. Despite his injury, he will still be appearing in the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. And speaking of Chris Jericho, he also addressed the criticism for the ending of Blood and Guts on his Talk is Jericho podcast. And I quote, he says, "I don't give a shit if it was a crash pad. It's one of those things where doing that, I mean, are we qualified to be stuntmen? I never went to stuntman school, but just 30 years of being in the business and you just go for it. You just absolutely put your caution to the wind and go for it. And it felt great. Obviously, it hurts. You're paying the price, but I could move my arms and legs and I wasn't dead or knocked out. I watched it back and I thought it looked amazing. And the thing that was really scary is that if you watch it back, I barely missed hitting my head on the lights at the back of the stage." Top Guy JJ, any thoughts on Jericho's comments?
So Jericho's my guy, yo. I'm not disagreeing with anything he said. Shit. He just changed my opinion in that in that comment. Like, fuck, that shit was great. Like, Chris Jericho, that was fucking. He's right though. He is right. Like, you don't practice getting thrown off cages. Like, you don't practice this shit. Like, what do people want? That they wanted that shit to be real metal, a real metal floor that he was gonna fall on. So they want people to die on TV.
This is
so we're not realizing that Chris Jericho is 50 years old. So we're gonna drop a 50-year-old man off of a 15-foot high cage on real metal.
Yes, I would recommend against that, definitely. But this is my so we were doing our review of this on The Distraction, and it's like I get it, but at the same time, I just wish someone, maybe Jericho, being the veteran he is, would have just gone, how about we don't go on top
How
of
about we just don't do this at all? Right?
Yes,
just how we not do it at all. But the fact
it's
that
not
they
one
did
or the
it,
other. Just don't do
they
it,
did it, so he fucking executed it. But it's like, yo, we should have just scrapped the whole idea. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. I mean, I could see everyone's point of view here. I just thought it was funny to mention his comments. The Wrestling Observer newsletter also reports that Riho has not been featured on AEW programming as of late because she went back to Japan. I'm hoping that she comes back soon. I think Riho is one of their key members of the women's division. And talking about Japan, we got to move over to New Japan Pro Wrestling. New Japan announced that thanks to the state of emergency in Tokyo with an increase in COVID-19 cases, they will be postponing their Wrestle Grand Slam events that were scheduled to take place on May 15th and 29th. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, New Japan Pro Wrestling plans to run both the Yokohama Stadium and the Tokyo Dome, the scheduled venues for Wrestle Grand Slam, when things improve. Their next major event will be Dominion in Osaka on June 6th, but since Osaka is in a state of emergency, the status of that show is also in question. The foreign talent in New Japan Pro Wrestling have no way to work for the next month, and if they wanted to return home, there would be an issue of the 2-week quarantine required before they could wrestle again. Some of the talent scheduled for Dominion are staying in Japan for the month, but the issue is said to be incredibly frustrating as some talent are not happy about the lack of communication. Kevin Kelly was in Japan in quarantine to get ready for the stadium shows and Dominion, but went home instead when they were postponed. Following major changes to the Wrestling Taco Day 2 event last week, it was revealed that upwards of 7 different wrestlers tested positive for COVID-19 for New Japan Pro Wrestling. What do you think, Top Guy JJ, with all these issues with the virus for New Japan at the moment?
I mean, obviously, it's one good to be safe, but it's just unfortunate that it's still carrying on for as long as it is over there. You see a lot of places resuming; they're starting to try to open up a little bit more, but you know, the just here in state of emergencies is just kind of scary still. Almost 15 months later, like that's just it's kind of scary to understand that they're not. It just seems that some places just not taking this as serious as it should be, for it to be this long, for there still to be problems that's hindering potential entire countries and areas, and people are at some point are going to get affected by this in other ways, that they can't go to these shows, they can't generate these crowds. I mean, they were one of the first to bring people back to live shows, which was kind of backwards, because they were on a really good trajectory, and then all of a sudden they're going backwards now. Yeah. So it's like, what's going on over there? So it's like, this is something that, I wish that we just, saw a little bit more of us to see how they went backwards, because they had pretty much half of a full house for both shows at Wrestle Kingdom, and now they're scaling back. It's just kind of unfortunate to see that they're going in the wrong direction right now.
Well, you could kind of see those signs being there, because they were the first to have like fans back in attendance last June, when it was really bad with this whole pandemic. And I don't think their vaccinations are as frequent, or the system is the same as us in the US or Joe out in the UK. So it's unfortunate for New Japan fans, but that's just how it is right now. And then our final bit of New Japan news: in an interview with Sports Illustrated, Jon Moxley revealed that his new IWGP US title defense against Yuji Nagata was originally scheduled to be on New Japan Strong, before Tony Khan suggested Dynamite. He said, and I quote, "Tony asks, why not do it on Dynamite? And I said, if we can, then fuck it. Yeah, that would be bigger, especially for a legend like Nagata. We both love that it would be a chance for Nagata to be back on TNT. Before I knew it, Tony talked to New Japan, and now it happened, and it's a chance to celebrate his career." What was your overall thoughts on Nagata and Moxley, and do you think it was a good decision to have it on Dynamite, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. I think AEW is a promotion with a lot of kind of, if you kind of analyze it, you can pick holes in a lot of stuff, right? We did so earlier on the show.
Yeah.
But if I was to try and explain Dynamite at its best, its absolute most sort of like, strongest appeal, I would just bottle that feeling when you saw Yuji Nagata and Mox in it. Because what makes Dynamite exciting to me is the idea that, like, it's not its own little world. It's not its universe, so to speak, right? Like, it's just kind of one of the major spots in the wrestling world. And that allows you to do things like Yuji Nagata coming out, and they're not kind of whacking you over the head and going, here's who he is. They're just saying, this dude's awesome. Let him show you he's awesome. Like, he still can go. It was authentic, and it felt like it was for, us nerds that really like this shit to the level we do, which is, is what it is, but we like it, right? It was for us. And that's good sometimes. When we talk about Raw and SmackDown, it feels like we're like completely dismissed as part of that audience, right? Those of us that actually care about like they'll do 101 things for this, couple 100,000 don't really have any investment. But with Dynamite, at its absolute best, it's those moments where it's like, man, this is being done almost purely, under the idea of like making us excited to be watching this thing. And that's perfect. That was an electric moment. Like when Moxley came out, Wild Things playing, Nagata's staring him down, like that was, you felt that. It was a special moment, man. I think it was a great decision.
Yeah, they gave it the big fight feel with the locker room entrances and everything. Yeah, such a great piece of business for AEW. Impact Wrestling news, Jordynne Grace, we got to give her congratulations. She officially signed a new deal with Impact Wrestling, as well as the company officially announced July 17th as the date for their next pay-per-view, Slammiversary. And then in an interview with Wrestling Inc., Sammy Guevara addressed the situation with Impact Wrestling from earlier this year. He said, and I quote, a lot of stuff was said, but it's just business at the end of the day. I know I didn't really say nothing out there, and all this stuff reports that came out was only coming from one side. Some of it wasn't true. I really don't want to comment too much on it. It was what it was, and I still wish everyone the best. We're all friends, and we're all just trying to succeed at the end of the day. Kind of letting that heat get past him. I think it was a great decision with the comments from Sammy Guevara here. He also had a great interview with Alex McCarthy. You can check it out on talksports.com as well as on Alex McCarthy's social media. And then we got our final segment where we're going to preview Impact Under Siege and WWE WrestleMania Backlash. I do have to ask Top Guy JJ, you are a busy man. Do you have to run now?
I got about 10 minutes.
All right, so we can get through a little bit of talking about Impact Under Siege pay-per-view, which is tonight on the Impact Plus app. We were only going to give the predictions for the major matches on this card, but we got on the bottom of the card, Susan and Kimberly will be in tag team action against Tennille Dashwood and the returning Taylor Wilde. You got Brian Myers going one-on-one with Black Toros. You also got Willie Mack going one-on-one with the former Big Cass W. Morrissey. And then, in my opinion, one of the bigger matches on this card is going to be 6-man tag team action as the AEW World Champion and unified Impact World Champion Kenny Omega will team with the Good Brothers to verse Eddie Edwards and New Japan Pro Wrestling's own the Impact World Tag Team Champions FinJuice. This was set up after the Elite attacked these guys a couple of weeks ago to set up this 6-man tag team match. So who wins at Impact Under Siege? Eddie Edwards and FinJuice versus the Elite. Joe, you are first up.
I will assume that Eddie beats one of the Good Brothers to set up a match at the next special with Omega. That would be my guess. I think the match will be killer. I think actually all of Kenny's 6-mans with the Good Brothers have been really, really good. So it'll be good. I mean, the Impact specials usually hit for me. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. But I think it'll be a very good match. Yeah, they always have like really good wrestling, but I think this one is definitely going to stand out because, like you said, the Elite have just hit on these 6-man tag team matches. Top Guy JJ, who wins, the Elite or Eddie Edwards and FinJuice?
I mean, yeah, it kind of would make sense, but I need the Good Brothers to get a fucking W here, yo. The Good Brothers have not been winning shit, yo. No. Like they've been like the weaklings of the Elite, yo. So like they or the club or whatever you want to call them, like they have not been holding their weight, yo. And you can see it on a weekly basis that Mr. Callis is not acknowledging them as much. They need to pick up a W. One of them good brothers need to pick up a W. And I'm going to go with the good brothers and Kenny to win.
Yep, it would be a good decision for them to win here. So I'm going to agree with you. I think the Good Brothers need the victory more. They haven't won on AEW or Impact in quite some time. They lost to FinJuice at Rebellion, and I feel like this win here will set up a rematch with FinJuice where they can eventually win back those tag team titles. But speaking of the tag team titles, they got an Impact Tag Team Championship #1 contendership match, as it's going to be TJP and Petey Williams versus Rohit Raju and Shira versus Triple XL versus Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. I am going to be first up with my prediction, and I'm going to go with Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. Ace Austin just lost the X Division title, and I just feel like he needs something at this point. He's another one that needs a victory, and this would be a good spot for him and set up a good match with FinJuice versus Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. Who you got, Top Guy JJ? Triple XL, TJP, and Petey Williams, or Rohit and Shira, or Ace Austin and Madman?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here and go with Ace Austin. I still don't like the fact that they took the title off of him. And, I ain't picking shit that got TJP in it because TJP's a fucking bum. But we're not going in that route. But, I don't understand the Ace Austin thing. So hopefully he resurrects himself rather quickly because he's fucking good.
Yes, he is very, very good. Joe, who you got in this #1 contendership?
I mean, I'll go with you guys. That is a hell of a tag team lineup. Let me tell you, there were nothing but misses there. I was going okay, and he was like Ace Austin. I was like, okay, I'll do Ace Austin. There's a lot. I don't know if it's good, but there's a lot of guys. Good luck to them.
There's a lot of guys. I'm not sure how long they've been tag teams because I watch Impact almost regularly. I didn't watch it this week, but a lot of these teams are new to me, but teams own. We got the Knockouts Championship is on the line. Deonna Purrazzo will defend against Havoc. Havoc won this by defeating Rosemary on this past week's Impact on Access TV. So who wins here? Deonna versus Havoc. Joe, let's start with you.
I mean, Deonna better win. Just not mess around with this. This feels simple. I know that the Deonna Purrazzo title reign is kind of complex because they're struggling to find contenders. That doesn't mean you change the title, though. Let's not get carried away. This seems simple to me. I'll go with Deonna.
Yeah, they've kind of been shuffling ever since Kylie Ray left when she was supposed to win the title, and they kind of have just put the title back on Deonna to be the anchor. I agree with you. I think Deonna wins here. Who you got, JJ?
Oh, absolutely, Deonna. Like, come on, man. Like, Havoc next.
Yes. Next up, you got the Knockouts tag team titles on the line, as it's going to be Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering defending against the former champions Fire and Flavor. I think that is too soon to take the titles off of Jordan and Rachel, so I think they successfully defend here. Top Guy JJ, who you got?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just looking at a Deonna photo just now. Posting on IG just now. Can you just give me a quick reminder of that? Because
Jordan
fire.
Grace and Rachel Ellering versus Fire and Flavor.
Oh, come on. Fire and Flavor really disappointed me last month, man. Like, let's see if they can get back in their winning ways. I'm going Fire and Flavor, even though Jordan Grace is probably going to prove me wrong. But let's see if Fire and Flavor can redeem themselves.
So who you got in this rematch, Fire and Flavor or Jordan and Rachel, Joe?
I think the belts are going back to Fire and Flavor sooner or later because, where else do they go, right? I don't know if they're going to go here, though. I'll pick the champs to retain, but I do think this thing will be extended in some form or fashion. So we'll see.
Yes, we shall see. And then this one is one I'm very much looking forward to for the X Division Championship. It's going to be the new champ, Josh Alexander, defending the title against New Japan Pro Wrestling and Bullet Club's own El Phantasmo. El Phantasmo debuted in Impact 2 weeks ago. He won a 6-way matchup this past week to get this opportunity at the X Division title. So who wins in this battle of Canadians, ELP versus Josh Alexander? Let's start with you, Top Guy.
I'm gonna go with ELP on this one. I'm gonna go with ELP. I mean, he's pretty hot right now. You gotta just keep that iron striking.
Impact giving all their titles to New Japan. Who you got? ELP versus Josh Alexander, Joe?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to stop them. I think they're very scared of this perception. It's a building one. It's a grand perception that they're just sort of like hosting other wrestlers. Josh Alexander's great. If there's a guy that can beat ELP on the roster, it's probably him. You know. But I also agree with the point that like he's hot. So I'll go Josh Alexander.
I'm going to agree with you. I think Josh Alexander wins here, but I would love to see more matches between those two. I think they're going to mesh very well and be a show stealer on this card. And then finally, the main event, they will determine a new number one contender for the unified Impact World Championship in a six-way number one contenders match, as it's going to be Chris Sabin versus Chris Bay versus Sami Callihan versus Matt Cardona versus Trey Miguel versus Moose. All of these men have qualified for this matchup in singles competition over the last couple of weeks, but who will be next up to verse Kenny Omega, I believe, at the next Impact special against all odds, or maybe even possibly at Slammiversary in July? Who comes out of this six-way? Let's start with you, Joe.
That's a hard one. I honestly, when you were going through those names, Joe, I was going, I don't know about that one. I'll go Chris Bay because I think he's the... You know, like, to me, he's like the other side of what we think Ace Austin is. To me, they're like the two guys to build around. So I'll go with him, mostly out of optimism. I don't know. I mean, with Kenny, I feel like they see it as he can drag a match out of anyone. And rightly or wrong, I think that's how they view it. But I would go with Chris Bay.
I can see that. Chris Bay is definitely one of my favorites in the Impact roster right now. Top guy JJ, who you got?
It's time to pull the trigger and give me goddamn Moose. It is time to pull this trigger. It is time for this to happen. Moose takes this match and faces Kenny Omega at Slammiversary.
I am just something that I hate to say on this show. I'll just warn you, Joe. But I agree with top guy JJ. Moose, it's time for Moose to get a big victory, and I feel like they can use this victory to propel him to July for Slammiversary. Omega and Moose, we saw them mix it up in the Hard to Kill six-man tag, and they had some of the best exchanges in that entire matchup. So I would love to see them mix it up again in one-on-one competition. We got a couple of comments here to read. We got Marjo saying too much giz. I think that's a reference that maybe Joe will get, not me. But we got Jason Michael Campbell saying, I believe he's right. You know, I see a storyline where the Fiend kills Alexa Bliss. He also asks us, what are your thoughts with Nikki Cross back in the fold with Alexa Bliss as Lily? Is that even a possibility? I don't know who to go with this one. Let's go with the top guy JJ this time. I think I
don't give a fuck. I don't care at all. Like, way too much attention to this shit. Yes. None. Like, I'm sorry, sir, but no. Like, the fuck? That's like the worst thing on TV, and we're gonna talk about it again.
He's wondering. He's wondering. The Negro Buck is in the live chat here. He says, damn, is ELP really going to win the X Division title before the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title? Guess we shall see. It is a possibility, and it's a strong possibility for sure. And then Marjo says, Impact is the new Midwest Wrestling. They put over all the top outside guys to increase the power of their wrestlers. Yeah, it's logic from the NWA days now in 2021, but that gives us to a close on the Impact Under Siege pay-per-view preview. Top guy JJ, I'm going to give you the opportunity here to plug where they can find you on social media before me and Joe close things off with WrestleMania Backlash. Yes, he's throwing the entire WrestleMania Backlash card on you, Joe. But yes,
you absolutely have fun with that bullshit.
Where can they find you on social media, top guy? And
on Instagram, you can find me at Tru Heel _ top guy JJ. At Facebook, you can find me at my first and last name. But other than that, yeah, have fun with this bullshit Backlash card. Have fun with that. Yeah. Pleasure to meet you, sir, and pleasure to have this chat up with you, Joe. But
yes.
Yeah, this is definitely my time to.
I appreciate it. It'd be great.
Exit stage live. Thank you, top guy JJ. We are sure to see you next week on Tru Heel Heat 125. Thank you for joining us this week. Mm-hmm. Have a good day at work, sir.
All right. Well, thank you. Head into the plant now.
And yes, me and Joe are left here for the WWE WrestleMania Backlash preview. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry to do this to you.
I know what I was signing up for. You know, I know. I looked at the calendar. I said, this is going to be about WrestleMania Backlash. I'm glad, frankly, it took us an hour and 40 minutes to get to, because at least we had some fun along the way. You know, we had some talk about Impact. We went to this guy and that guy. Now we have to do what I knew we had to do. So we'll get into it. It'll be fun.
Exactly. We had to close things off with a little bit of torture, because that's what wrestling podcasts are all about. But we're going to start off with the match that I think we can both agree nobody is interested in, because we've seen it 1,001 times since the month of January. And I am talking about Damian Priest going one-on-one with The Miz again, this time in a lumberjack match. This follows up from WrestleMania, where Damian Priest and Bad Bunny defeated The Miz and Morrison in what I call the greatest celebrity performance in WrestleMania history by Bad Bunny. But ever since then, Damian Priest can't seem to get out of the crosshairs of Miz and Morrison. He defeated John Morrison on this past week's Monday Night Raw to make the stipulation for this match on Sunday, a lumberjack match, to avoid Miz from running away from him. So who wins here, Priest or The Miz?
I have to say that before I even give an answer, it's worth noting this is the dumbest shit on this whole show. And I can't believe this is actually a thing. I don't watch the TV. You know this, right? Like, I just don't. And I looked at the card and was like, this is a good card. I have no problems with 90% of this. This is so inexplicable and unnecessary. I have no clue what the logic is. Priest is going to win, because my assumption is, or hope, belief, whatever, that Priest is the guy they're going to go with this year. I really do think there's a chance that's the case, because they just need to go with someone, right? The report you said earlier, new faces, all that stuff. He needs to win, but I have to say, this just even being a thing, a month after Bad Bunny already pinned them, he's like the worst of modern WWE. Just let some stuff like move on. You know, you don't have to go hit every hammer into the ground. It's too much. But anyway, Priest.
Yeah, this is very easily Damian Priest getting the victory in this one. I'm just like baffled by WWE's line of thinking, honestly, Joe, because, you know, let's look at the landscape of this year. The Miz was Money in the Bank. He cashed in Money in the Bank, beat Drew McIntyre for Bobby Lashley to then beat him for the title, where everybody thought that it was for Drew McIntyre to get his WrestleMania moment at WrestleMania, defeating Bobby Lashley. Instead, Bobby Lashley just makes him pass out to the Hurt Lock. So it was like, why didn't Bobby Lashley just win the title at WrestleMania? Why did we have to deal with The Miz being champion for 2 weeks for him to then go on to WrestleMania to lose to a Grammy Award winner? Like, it's just like, why do they make us go through these logicless journeys to like the likely destination? It just hurts me. It just hurts my mind even thinking back to the whole year that The Miz has had. But clearly, Damian Priest needs to win here and move on.
I sure hope so, my friend. I sure hope so, because if not, it's going to be more of it, and we don't need that.
Oh Jesus! Oh man, I just hope we are safe in that prediction there. And of course, Top Guy JJ is already in the comments on YouTube saying, "What the fuck is that match?" He's still with us, folks. He's still with us. He's gone, but not forgotten. And yes, we'll move on to the next matchup we got here for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. It's going to be the Dirty Dogs of Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode defending the titles against the father-son duo of Rey and Dominic Mysterio. Rey and Dominic trying to become the first ever father-son tag team champions in WWE history. So who wins here, the Dirty Dogs or the Mysterios, Joe?
I'm going with the Mysterios title change. I have to be honest. This is very much my shit. You know, now I can, you know, I see it in the chat. This is Joe's team. Listen, I don't know why, but I think if this thing gets like 12 minutes, I think they can tear it up. I really do, because Rey is still great, and Roode and Ziggler, while physically they are not what they were, they're still very good, and they can, you know, they're a team now, so they have to do less. It just needs enough time to be a traditional match in terms of structure, because if it is, like, I think this could shock people. I think it should be really good. I'm genuinely interested by it, but the result seems like a formality to me. It needs to be a title change at this point. That seems obvious.
Yeah, because it sets up a lot of other things as well down the road, because it seems like the Usos are going to get back together eventually, and just them going against another family, I just think just is the
Yes.
logical thing with the story that they've built up over the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And it could lead into maybe a Rey Mysterio versus Roman Reigns feud as well, which I think would be a lot of fun, with Roman just killing and murdering
Mm-hmm.
Rey Mysterio all over the place. But yeah, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, I agree, need to be the tag team champions here. But I'm just gonna say fair warning. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dirty Dogs successfully defend, because it seems like every time I think the Dirty Dogs are gonna lose, they seem to win every single time.
It's interesting. You know, we spoke earlier about Natty and Tamina being something for the locker room. I think these guys are in some ways that way, where they don't want to kind of discard them, you know, because they are like pros and, you know, all that good stuff. I'll say this much though, man. These two teams, the Usos, Street Profits, that's 4 teams that can go. Now, is that a lot? No, but it's 4. It's more than I'm used to. You know, and even, you know, Gable and Otis, Gable can do what he can do with that. So there's something there. I'm positive about this SmackDown tag division on a show I don't watch. So there you go.
So outside of Eddie Kingston, your other guys are Dolph and Bobby Roode. They say here, Taxel says Dirty Dogs is Joe's team.
He would know. Tax would know. He's a supportive patron. I appreciate his feedback, even though he would of course come in on that note. Nothing, you know, sort of glowing or glamour. He would just go, yeah, the Dirty Dogs. Yeah, they're cool, man. They're a good old fashioned heel team. I imagine them, SP3. I see them as like, you know, they're walking out on WCW Saturday night. You know, Jim Ross is talking about their collegiate backgrounds, that kind of deal. They're that sort of team. Good stuff.
I would love that.
Yes.
This is the team that Jim Ross would love in AEW right now. And then we got Marjo saying they need Miz to win so that Bad Bunny could save the day. Oh my God, fuck my life. Yes, Bad Bunny. We need to get the Bad Bunny Miz matchup, because that's the money. I said that before WrestleMania. It's not the tag team match. The money is in Miz, the former reality star, the former star of the real world, back to New York, versus the 2020 Spotify Artist of the Year.
I think there's a chance you'll get Lashley versus Priest with MVP opposite Bad Bunny in the corner. I think there's a very real chance you're getting that. Now, I would not like to be the guy that goes up to MVP and says, take a Canadian Destroyer from the Bad Bunny. But that's me. That's just me. Someone else has to do that.
Yes, that's someone else's job. That's not for you. That's not for you, baby. We got for the SmackDown tag for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It's gonna be the WrestleMania 37 Night 1 main eventer, Bianca Belair defending her title for the first time against the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion in history, Bayley. These ladies have exchanged a few words over the last couple of weeks, with Bayley cutting a great promo on last night's SmackDown, saying that she sees a little bit of herself in Bianca. Remember, Bayley won the Raw Women's Championship from Charlotte Flair a couple of years ago, went into WrestleMania, was victorious, and then the following month she lost her title. So she's kind of setting the stage for Bianca to lose here. But who wins, Bayley versus Belair? I will go first, and I will say Bianca Belair needs to win. Bianca Belair must win and move on from Bayley, because we've kind of seen this before she won the title. So I hope that this is just a 1 month feud and then she can move on. Who you got, Joe?
Oh, I totally agree, but I don't think they'll move on. And my concern is they use this as their monthly, you know, messy finish where count out, because I think they look at, we both appreciate Bayley obviously, but we see it as like, you know, she's done this before, let's move forward. I think they see it as like, who else is there? Because SmackDown has got a very small crew, right? Like the women's division is not a big group. So, yeah, I don't know. I think obviously everyone agrees Bianca's going to win, but this is one that I would circle as like, could be messy in terms of the result, because they may want to get another month out of this.
I do kind of see that as well. I can totally see them trying to get another month out of this because who else is there in the SmackDown division? I mean, Carmella got a victory 2 weeks ago,
Right.
but I think Sean told me last night on the SmackDown review over on Fightful that they only have 8 women right now on SmackDown. So they need an injection of some new blood, but I could see them waiting to inject some new people in there and having Bayley another shot next month at Money in the Bank. On the other side of the spectrum, over on Monday Night Raw, you got for the Raw Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley, the Nightmare, will defend against the former champion, Asuka, and the Opportunity herself, the Queen, Charlotte Flair. This one follows up from WrestleMania last month where Rhea defeated Asuka for the championship. The following night, the Opportunity herself, Charlotte Flair, returned and basically interfered in the rematch between Asuka and Rhea. And this set up this match. We had Sonya Deville, who is not the Raw General Manager and not the Raw General Manager assistant, inject Charlotte Flair into this, making it a triple threat match. And it feels like we are back at WrestleMania 35 all over again, Joe, with Charlotte being inserted into an already Raw Women's Championship matchup. But who wins here, Rhea, Asuka, or Charlotte?
I mean, I'll pick Rhea because that seems like the smart pick, right? She just won the title a month ago, but like, let's be honest, it's it's no great prize at this point. I mean, Alexa's going to be slotted in here somewhere. She's going to feud with one of these women. Best wishes to whoever that is, because I just, this thing's a mess. We spoke about it earlier, right? It's just this whole title scene has been a complete disaster for months now, and they refuse to fix it. And Charlotte is not the fix just by being Charlotte. So I'll pick Rhea with full awareness that anyone could win this thing, and it would honestly make no difference whatsoever. It is what it is.
Yes, this match will be what it is going to be. I think that is going to be better than what we've seen from Rhea and Asuka over the last couple of weeks. They haven't really meshed too well together, and God knows why Asuka lost on Monday. Like, I know Big Dave Batista was upset about that, and he even commented on the YouTube video. Like, if you're getting Big Dave Batista upset at you, you know you're doing something wrong here, because that man shouldn't care. He should just be worrying about his next Marvel check, not worrying about Asuka being mistreated. But even that upset him. So It upsets him. It upsets all of us. So I agree with you, though, Joe. I went for Rhea on the WrestleMania Backlash preview over on Sportskeeda Wrestling, so I'm going to go for Rhea here, but I think nobody and their mama would be surprised if Charlotte Flair walks out of here. I think the only surprising result would be if Asuka somehow won back the title.
That would be surprising. It sure would be.
That would be a shocker for sure. And another triple threat match that we got to talk about for the WWE Championship. Your boy, Joe, Big Van Bobby Lashley, defending the championship against the former champ, Drew McIntyre, as well as Braun Strowman. Bobby Lashley defeated Drew McIntyre to successfully defend the title back at WrestleMania. Then the following night on Raw, Drew McIntyre won a triple threat with Braun Strowman and Randy Orton. But Braun was not satisfied because he wasn't pinned, so he challenged Drew to a one-on-one matchup, who he defeated to gain entry into this, making it a triple threat matchup. So Bobby Lashley once again in a triple threat match, the same way he lost his United States title back at Elimination Chamber. So who wins here, Lashley, Braun, or McIntyre, Joe?
Lashley better win. He needs to win this one. Let me tell you, I'm not here to do anything could happen with this one. This needs to be Lashley. Like, there's no reason to emphasize him the way you did at Mania, only to turn around and have him drop it here. So I think you go Lashley, but I'll tell you, our friend Jeremy Lambert, he keeps doing this Braun Strowman thing. He's just, he's scattering it around, he's saying it, and I don't think so. I think Lashley is clearly the correct decision here. That doesn't mean they'll make it, but that's clearly the decision to me.
We try our best to just go with the most logical prediction as possible, the one that would make sense the most. So yes, I agree with you. Bobby Lashley is the prediction that makes the most sense. But we did talk about Drew McIntyre reportedly in a feud with Jinder Mahal. Wouldn't it be WWE to make that a WWE Championship rivalry? The Battle of 3MB for the WWE Championship. Imagine that. Imagine talking to 2014 Joe and telling them that Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre might battle for the WWE Championship.
Forget 2004. You could tell me that today, and I'm not happy about it. I don't. Any day in a week, you could tell me that. I'm not going to be excited or happy. Drew. Look, the thing with Drew is he works really hard and he does a good job. You need to be a top guy of real gravity to make some of these feuds work, and he's not that. He's a guy who's trying to be that, and I don't think he's quite there yet. So let's hope not. SP3. Let's just hope not. Nothing but love for Jinder, but it's a little bit much.
You're one of the rare UK journalists or media personalities that aren't big on Drew McIntyre. Like, I've literally, I do a lot with the UK folks. I've done stuff with wrestling travel. I did their year-end awards where their fans voted for Drew as the wrestler of the year, and I'm like, did you guys not watch AEW with John Moxley? And I've gotten into debates with Alex McCarthy where I told him that Kenny Omega had a better in-ring year than Drew McIntyre, but he was very adamant he felt Drew was better. So why do you not as big of a fan as Drew McIntyre as the other UK wrestling personalities?
So what I'm about to say is going to sound like an insult to those gentlemen. It's not. I'm cool with Alex. I was on his show last night, but he's a nice guy. Drew's a nice guy. They've interviewed Drew, If I interviewed Drew and he was a nice guy, I would also pretend to like him. But I've never interviewed him. Therefore, no reason to pretend. I think he is a hard-working, consistent, solid, upper mid guy that they are trying to make the guy. And that's not a role for many wrestlers, right? I mean, most of my favorite wrestlers couldn't be that guy. So there's no shame in it. For me personally, man, it hasn't helped my interest in Raw. I'll tell you that much. An hour of Drew a week, it's a whole lot for me. I can't. It's just not for me. That's all.
I've called him this before, and I'll call him again. He is the UK John Cena. There's nothing new in the playbook of Drew McIntyre. He's just following the playbook of Cena, except he's got a British accent. Or Scotland accent, excuse me. We got Romeo in the live chat saying he's predicting Charlotte 14 times women's champion. He even got 14 queen emojis for us. Thank you for that. We got D-Naz joining us. Thank you for joining us, good brother. He says, unfortunately, Drew's character is too vanilla. He needs to go from Stunning Steve to Stone Cold. I don't see that for Drew. That's just not. That's not Drew. That's not for you, baby. That's the second time I had to use that line. Not for you, baby. And finally, the main event of WrestleMania Backlash, Joe. Something to bring our spirits up, as this one will surely be a banger. As Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, will defend the Universal Championship against the Swiss Superman Cesaro. Cesaro got the win at WrestleMania against Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns speared him, stacked him, and put to rest Danny O'Brien and Edge at WrestleMania 37. And then he banished Danny O'Brien from SmackDown, laying him out with a concerto right in front of Cesaro. Cesaro defeated Seth Rollins last week on the Throwback SmackDown to gain this opportunity, and has laid out the Usos and Roman Reigns over the last 2 weeks to gain more momentum. But who wins here? Roman versus Cesaro in the main event of WrestleMania Backlash.
Oh, I'm really happy for Cesaro, and I'd love to give you a very long speech about why Cesaro is going to win. Frankly, he's not going to win, but more than that, I don't think he should. I think the world of him, but just this Roman deal is special, right? WrestleMania Backlash is not the time. Backlash wouldn't be the time, let alone WrestleMania Backlash. It's a very unique time where we have, to me, WWE's clear number one star as a top heel that you're building around as a long-term champion. When it happens, it should matter. This would matter, but not to the degree that I'm waiting for. I think Cesaro's great, and hopefully he stays at this level regardless of Sunday. But it's going to be Roman, and I think it should be.
And funny enough, this is what Triple H wanted in 2003, to be the top star that's also the top heel, and he never could do it because he always had someone like Kurt Angle or Brock Lesnar over on SmackDown who were always bigger stars than him and just better than him at the time. But this is what Roman has accomplished here, and it's probably the most focused storyline that WWE has had since Bryan versus The Authority, and that one was by accident. This one was done on purpose, so it's mind-boggling that the same people that booked this are booking Monday Night Raw. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. but I agree with you. Roman Reigns needs to win here, but this will be a star-making performance for Cesaro, in my opinion. And I think that this will lead to Cesaro next month at Money in the Bank winning the briefcase. What do you think about that, Joe?
That's interesting. I'm not a big Money in the Bank guy because I find they've run out of ways that they're willing to do with that thing. There's a lot of creative things to do with it that they just seem to refuse to do. But that I kind of like. I'm tempted to do a situation, and this is, now we're really fantasy booking here, but when we talk about Raw and it's like, man, Raw seems really uninteresting. Maybe that's where you do the Cesaro singles run. And a briefcase, I guess, would open that up, but it's like, I think we both agree there's no time to have Roman lose. Like, let's be honest, it's going to be a while, right? Yeah. And I don't think personally, as much as I love him, I don't think Cesaro should be that guy. I'd be looking at a Big E more so.
Yeah.
But on Raw, Raw's wide open. Sure. I mean, I love Lashley, but he's not like a long-term guy. He's 44, 45. So maybe that's what you do, Cesaro. Briefcase, go open that up. Anything that keeps Cesaro at this level, which is where he very much belongs, I'm all for it, 100%.
I actually love that idea. I didn't even think about that when I thought about him winning Money in the Bank, but him moving over to Monday Night Raw, and imagine the matches him and Lashley, and that's not a well that they've gone to too often. So I would love to see that. That's a great idea. Us bringing our two ideas together, meshing it into one. The true heel distraction right there. And we got Romeo asking us, how do the Usos play a part in this main event? I think that Jimmy will inadvertently seem like he's going to cost Roman this matchup, and then Jay will interfere at the right time and Roman will get the victory. I think that we're going to continue building up this Uso rivalry, and I could see at Money in the Bank Jimmy versus Jay, or even Jimmy versus Roman for the Universal Championship. What about you, Joe?
That's interesting. I mean, look, as you can probably tell, I've got over my shoulder here, but I'll do anything to get the Usos back as a team. I think they're great, but like the idea of them doing stuff, because look, we know that in the end they have to be a team again, right? But like making the most of this stuff with them as singles, I think is fun. I agree with you that I think, similarly to how the Daniel Bryan finish was kind of Attitude Era-y. Not in a bad way, I enjoyed it. I think you could get the same thing here where you get, as you said, like, Jimmy comes down, what's he going to do, who's he going to hit, and then Jay does it. And you'll get some drama out of that. And people may roll their eyes at it, but I think it will be exciting. I think they'll be involved. As to what the long term is, I am not watched close enough to really tell you. But, the Usos are really, really great at pro wrestling. And, like, when I say that sounds like a vague, dumb term. What I mean is, even in just the angles I'm seeing on SmackDown, they're just so authentic and believable, like it really has some weight to it in a way that stuff in wrestling very, very rarely does. So whatever they're doing, man, if they're there, I'll be happy to see it. It sounds like fun to me.
Absolutely. It's continue dropping us those likes on YouTube. Drop us a like, a heart emoji, a laugh emoji, an angry emoji on Facebook. We got a bunch of y'all watching, about 20 something or so watching on Facebook right now. Drop us those likes. I only got a couple of likes here, so keep on dropping us likes. We're going to wrap things up here. We got one more comment in the live chat saying, Descended Demon saying, of course, I'll never watch enough WWE to give this new character a fair chance. At this point, after everything that we've covered on this episode of Tru Heel Heat, I do not blame you at all.
Yes. Listen, I'm a big firm believer on this, and guys like us, we have to kind of be in the loop just for what we talk about. You should only watch the stuff you enjoy. It's not worth it. Life's too short to watch, Nia and Shayna team up every week and have 3-minute matches. You got to do stuff better with your time. Have fun. If it's not for you, it's not for you. I'm kind of with you. It's fine. You'll be fine.
Awesome. So yes, let's wrap things up on this episode of Tru Heel Heat. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us on Tru Heel Heat 125. You were one of my favorite guest hosts on this show. You provided a bunch of laughs for us. The live chat seems to love you as well. Please let the people know where they can find you on social media, your work on Fightful, and of course the distraction as well.
It's getting longer and longer, this promotional list.
Yes.
I'm going to need to start, like, the next time I come on, I'm going to, like, send it to you and just be like, can you just read this for me? we can just read do the promotion. So, look, here's the deal, guys. At Joe Hulbert on Twitter. and that's where you can find all my links. The big things to hit is Fightful, twitch.tv/Fightful Gaming. Jeremy and I are on there all the time. SP3's joined us a couple times. We had some fun with Nitro. I remember there was one time where we were off the rails. It was about Impact for an hour. I don't know why, but it was fun. You got that, and then we have a Patreon page now, which folks have been far too generous on because it's terrible content, but they like it, so good on them. That'll be on my Twitter. All the stuff's on Twitter, at Joe Hulbert. You'll find me there, and I appreciate having me, man. This was a lot of fun. I would happily come back anytime. Great time.
You are welcome back. I definitely want to have you on when Top Guy JJ could stay for the full episode. Chrissy Love, and we could do it, maybe more in the afternoon for you. Still morning for us, but more in the afternoon for you, where Top Guy JJ can have a drink. You can have a drink as well. Chrissy will have a drink. I can. I have twins, and I have to be sober to chase them around the house. But yes, you can find me on Twitter at Tru Heel SP3. You can see a bunch of my work from the past week. Powered 4 TV YouTube channel with Powered 4 SP3 with Alex McCarthy on Wrestling Daily this past Wednesday as we celebrated Alex's birthday. Happy birthday. Shouts out to him. And of course, Joe was on there on Friday, so definitely check out those 2 episodes. You could also see me on Quizzlemania 34, losing to one of Joe's bosses over there, Sean Rossap, because I can't tell Hispanic nipples from Asian nipples, apparently. I did very bad at that round. And you can find me over on Fightful on their SmackDown review with Sean Rossap and Jeremy Lambert last night as we broke down everything that happened on Friday Night SmackDown. You can follow the gang Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Tru Heel Heat. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, drop us a like. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family. If you're watching this on demand, let us know in the comment section below what you thought about this podcast. Give us your predictions for Impact Under Siege, as well as WWE WrestleMania Backlash. We will be back live tomorrow, Sunday, in the afternoon in the US, in the evening in the UK around 4 p.m. Eastern time with our Impact Under Siege live stream review with Chris G and Ness. They will be sharing blunts. It's Blunt Impact Live, so roll your trees with them as they review Impact Under Siege. And then on following WWE WrestleMania Backlash will be going live, hosted by the one, the only, the connoisseur of reporting, Mr. Romeo Anthony Colon will be live with you. He says right here, I'll be on that review Sunday, bro. Yes, he's going to be manning the ship for me as they break down in WrestleMania Backlash on Sunday following the show, so stay tuned for that. So, for Top Guy JJ, for our special guest here, Joe Hulbert of Fightful Wrestling and the Distraction Podcast. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. This has been Tru Heel Heat 125, Backlash Under Siege. We are signing off until